If you're perimenopausal, if you're menopausal, if you have extra fat to lose, if you're doing everything right and nothing's happening, we need to talk. What you eat matters. When you eat it matters. Where you eat it even matters. Today we're going to talk about food. We're going to talk about more than food. We're going to talk about insulin and leptin resistance. We're going to talk about what I'm eating, what my clients are eating, and how to strategize your fat loss journey. Living in a body that doesn't behave, well, I know you're used to it, but it doesn't have to be this hard. Fat loss, although it is tricky, you can be successful. I've got a checklist for you. My name's Connie Rutledge. I'm a functional nutritionist. I'm 64 years old. I've been down the road of fat loss, and I've worked really hard to learn the ins and outs of difficult factors in successful fat loss, like insulin resistance and leptin resistance. It might not be what you think it is. It's not all about the food. We know that insulin is what the body produces, basically, when you eat carbohydrates. Well, when you eat, let's put it that way, for the most part. Insulin can be a massive blocking factor, especially if you're diabetic, if you have type 2 diabetes, if you have 20 or more pounds sitting, in storage on your body, you likely have insulin resistance. Well, we're going to go the next step and say that if you have extra weight and if you have been doing everything right, you've been eating a low-calorie diet, you've been intermittent fasting, you've been watching your carbohydrates and getting your exercise, well, it could be something like a leptin resistance on top of the other things that you're dealing with. Okay, leptin is a master hormone, just like insulin is a hormone. Leptin comes from your fat cells. And if you're leptin resistant, then it's likely that you are hungry more often and your appetite is at a dull roar all the time. That's why it's almost impossible for you to stick to your diet, or at least it feels that way. Okay, the interesting thing about leptin is it's a circadian hormone. What am I talking about? Leptin docks in the brain when you're sleeping at night, and it gives your body the information. It gives your brain an inventory of how much fat is stored. And if you're not going to bed at night, or if you're snacking late at night and eating after dark, your brain isn't getting signaled the way that it needs to be, and your body really has no idea of how much fuel it has available to it. And just like insulin sensitivity or insulin resistance, yo-yo dieting is a huge component of leptin resistance. Understanding that might be important, but I've got strategies that will help you and your circadian rhythm really kind of iron things out, and it's all lifestyle based. Sure, your diet matters, but we'll get to that. Chances are you know how to eat. You've been doing this forever, and sometimes you're better at it than others, but I thought it'd be fun to kind of give you a kind of a bird's eye view of meals that I have on repeat. We've done this before. Let's have some fun, clarify some things, and maybe give you a few new ideas in how you should be eating. So I've talked about meal timing, and for the most part, what worked for me was to fast in the morning, and I might be rethinking that. I don't think I ever had insulin resistance, and I don't think I have leptin resistance. That said, it was difficult for me to lose fat until I really played with intermittent fasting. Now, the information about a leptin reset would be you eat first thing in the morning. As the sun is rising, our body needs energy, and it makes sense. You need to feed the body. But what we weren't talking about is how after sunset, there should be no food. In fact, you should have 3 to 5 hours before you go to bed in the fasted state. So that means eat dinner early and shut the kitchen down. That's a tough order for a lot of us. I know it's tough for me, and I know that I definitely got the hang of it and the weight came off. Okay, so I'm starting to rethink the early morning feeding and kind of lean into the way that I counsel and the way that I suggest that you do your meal timing. If you have 20 to 30 or more pounds to lose, I'm going to just say straight out, eat breakfast. This is going to be wildly different for a lot of you who have been doing that longer intermittent fast early in the morning. So if we're going to really lean into intermittent fasting, then if we eat breakfast, then we need to eat dinner early and stop. And sometimes we need to skip dinner. And that's not easy to swallow when you have a family, when you have a social life. But sometimes if you're serious about fat loss and if you really need to get granular about, doing all the things, then you're going to be okay on occasion skipping dinner, fasting through dinner, and through the evening. The way that I counsel is we want to eat real whole foods. And the Paleolithic keto style, low carb, is, where I kind of land. Meats, vegetables, fruits, some dairy, some nuts and seeds, and avoid the grains for the most part. Occasionally they're fine, and kind of go from there. And this is just like glossing over. I've got my dietary guidelines brochure that you get when you do a Jumpstart session with me or any kind of program. But we're going to start by saying get up early. Ideally, we watch the sunrise. For me, it's a little easier, and in the summertime, it's very easy because the sun is up after 6. I think it was 6:11 this morning. So getting up before the sunrise is easy when you go to bed on time. And I go to bed certainly, between 9 and 10. I'm a good sleeper, so waking up at 5:30, 6 o'clock, that's easy and natural for me. If that's not easy for you, then it's time to retrain. It's time to go to bed early. What have I been eating in the morning? I will admit, I'm not really excited about eating breakfast. I'm used to working out in the fasted state. I've done this for so many years, but what I'm doing now is I'm doing my Equip Prime Protein or my Noble Protein powder. It's a grass-fed beef isolate protein powder. I like the chocolate, and I'm adding a little bit of heavy cream, and I'm almost making like a pudding. I used to add it to yogurt. I just don't like the way that tastes right now, and I need a little bit of fat, so a couple tablespoons of heavy cream. If you have a little bit of milk, some people use coconut milk. That's okay. You can use an almond milk, but I do like to have a little bit of fat in that feeding window. So I mix maybe a scoop and a half of the protein powder with just enough liquid. And you choose what liquid you eat. Mix that well into like a pudding or like a very thick smoothie type thing. I eat it with a spoon. I even added walnuts this morning. Delicious. It tasted like a chocolate brownie, I swear. And it's not that I'm full, but I've got 23 30 grams of protein and some good quality fat, and I'm not over full. Sometimes I have, if I eat a little bit later in the morning, I've eaten like a sausage gravy and eggs. I make sausage gravy. Okay, you're going to say it's not paleo. I use a little bit of gluten-free flour. Any flour is fine. You could use coconut flour and a really good quality sausage and some heavy cream. Delicious. Now, if that doesn't sound right, then that's fine. Another breakfast idea that I do is I'll do scrambled eggs and sauerkraut. Sometimes I will have 4 soft-boiled eggs, a little bit of sauerkraut, and some sprouts. I mean, that's just solid nutrition. You get your fat, you get your protein, and a little bit of carbohydrate. Sometimes I eat the breakfast scramble that I've made in several videos, where it's a few potatoes, maybe some onions, maybe some zucchini or mushrooms, and I saute all that up, add my sausage, whether it's turkey sausage, whether it's pork sausage, whether it's beef sausage, up to you, and you scramble that all together. You could stop there, or I'll add several scrambled eggs into that mix, and then I have breakfast for several days. So that's pretty much it. Sometimes, gosh, in the summertime, I could throw in a plum, I could throw in some berries, any kind of fruit works. For the most part, when I fashion my meals, I always start with a protein. And I always want to get about 30 to 40 grams of protein for feeding window. I typically eat 2 meals a day. Now, if I'm going to eat just a little tiny bit of breakfast, I'll do 3 meals. And that would be, that first kind of yogurt pudding or protein powder, something like that. Maybe a lighter meal. And then that first heavier meal that is quote unquote real food and not like a protein powder will be equal parts protein and carbs. If I have 40 grams of protein in my meal, then I want to have less than 40 carbohydrates for that meal. And the fat usually takes care of itself. I don't eat high fat. I can't process it that way. My digestion doesn't allow that. So I would say my diet is more high protein, moderate fat, and low carb. I'm very active. I have an appetite, and I do really well with about lower carbs than protein typically in my meals. There's always the random occasion that I do eat higher carb, and that's usually a meal out. But if I'm at home and I'm in control of what I'm eating, I'm watching my carbohydrates, eating lower carbohydrates. If I have a baked potato, that's probably the extent of my starch, just because I feel better that way. Okay, for my lunch meals, if I've had a real small breakfast, I'll have more of a lunch style lunch midday. I'll do, maybe it's a salmon, a can of wild caught salmon mixed in a bowl with celery, pickles, a little bit of mayo, and that's the avocado oil mayo, or I'll just do like a vinaigrette. I like a tangy style meal. I will put a little bit of lemon, lots of spices, maybe some herbs, and really kind of make that salmon salad just really yummy. And I'll eat the whole can. It's a small can, maybe 5 ounces. I might have that with some pickles, some celery, some carrots, tomatoes, an occasional potato chip, not often, just because I try not to buy that stuff. It's processed. Sure, it's delicious, but just I can get stuff like that when I'm out at a restaurant. Or I'll do simple. I'll have some leftover barbecue chicken in a bowl with avocado and maybe a couple olives, or again, I always have some veggies cut up. You can use some goat cheese. I'll do sometimes a slice of a raw cheese. Get creative. I'll even sometimes add like a barbecue sauce, and I'm not going to worry about the carbohydrates. Yes, if you have 30 pounds to lose, you need to count that stuff. That's important just for balance, for basic balance. So the daily checklist so far is get up at sunrise and get outside. Watch the sunrise. If you don't have a sunrise to watch, it doesn't matter. Go outside. Get the sun into your eyes. Your brain and your cellular body needs to see that it's morning. It's going to appropriate the amount of cortisol that you produce. And then you're going to want to eat at least a little something. And many of us are used to drinking our coffee. We're drinking black coffee. We're hungry until, later in the morning. Well, now we don't have to be hungry. Try eating a little something. And this is an experiment. If you've never done this, or if you're afraid to do this, let's talk. Schedule a Jumpstart and we can iron all this out. But it's been kind of an interesting game changer. I've found in my 64 years that if I don't get adequate protein early in the day, that I'm craving, and it's really hard for me to stay out of the kitchen after dinner. So it's been so much easier just having my protein earlier in the day, and my appetite is very much more regulated. I'm eating more fish because the DHA is good for brain health and cognitive function. Definitely important for circadian rhythm. It's important for so much in the mitochondria. I mean, our brain is running the show. Well, our mitochondria are running the show and our cellular body is. But it's going to be easier if we have those good quality fats, because those fats, and I've said it before, those fats are determining the health of the membrane of the mitochondria, so that electrons and energy and ions can move well in and out of that mitochondria, keeping us vital. We want at least 4 to 5 hours in between meals. Let the body digest. Give the body a chance to utilize the fuel you fed. Now it's time for dinner. And what are we going to do? Gosh, sky's the limit here. I'm always down for a lettuce wrap burger with cheese. We'll do that at least once a week. I like a good protein bowl, and that's not filled with rice, okay? If I'm doing like a taco protein bowl, well, I'm going to start with some shredded cabbage. I'm going to make a dressing out of sour cream, some salsa, some taco sauce, maybe lime, and I love my spices, cilantro, all of that mixed together to kind of dress my cabbage. And then I add in, for the most part, taco seasoned ground beef. I don't usually use cheese. Occasionally I'll sprinkle a little bit of grated pepper jack. I'll use some jalapenos, and occasionally I'll do a couple organic corn tortilla chips. I like the Siete brand. They are cooked in avocado oil. Not that that's health food, but it's better than, a commercial corn tortilla chip. After dinner, maybe you want to get out for a walk. I think the most detrimental thing after dinner is to sit down in front of the TV. I'm learning so much about the blue light that will sap your body's energy. It'll sap the circadian rhythm. So I'm starting to consider maybe blue blocker glasses if I'm going to watch TV or watch the computer or do some work after work or anytime. And I want to just kind of invite you to use a red screen on your phone. It doesn't have to be bright red, but you're watching this on your phone. Those artificial rays are hitting your iris and they're instructing your cells on what time it is. And if it's late at night or even early in the morning, we need to be cognizant that there are special types of light to really entrain our body as far as timing goes. If you're doing blue light late at night, your circadian rhythm, your body thinks it's noon, and it's creating biochemicals that are really hampering your health. So we want balance. Get outside in the day. Get outside for lunch. Eat outside, if at all possible. Get outside for sunset. Eat outside, if possible. It's summertime. Hey, why don't you try it? If it's too hot, I get it. If it's too cold, I get it. But as often as possible, I want you to have natural light in your eyes and protect your circadian rhythm. Protect your mitochondrial health. Walking outdoors at least 30 minutes a day. I play tennis. I'm on the tennis court several days a week for 2 hours. Yes, I really think that has helped me through my whole life be healthy. The sun is magical, and we have been told to fear it. Wear a hat. If you are super light and fair-skinned, then put on some long sleeves. But for 15 to 30 minutes, you should be able to handle the sun, and it's going to instruct your body in how to be healthy. So those blue blocker glasses, I used to laugh at that, but I'm leaning in. There's a couple brands that I like. I'm still figuring out how it all works. I'll let you know. Other dinner ideas are beef or pork ribs. And yeah, I'll put a little barbecue sauce on it, and it might even have a little bit of sugar. But quality versus quantity, right? Just a tablespoon or so. I'm going to be okay with a little bit of that sweet. I'll have those ribs with a bowl of vegetables. Sometimes it's sauerkraut and tomatoes, a little avocado, and maybe some sprouts, or some lettuce and cabbage with a dressing. But a lot of times I like peppers, I like sour foods. Those things are always going to be welcome and make a delicious hearty meal. Sometimes, the other night we had leftover ribeye. I opened a can of, which this isn't normal, but I had some ranch-style pinto beans, delicious with a steak. That's not my go-to. It's a little more starch than I typically have, but it was easy, it was delicious, and something different. I'll do a oven roasted salmon. Take some parchment, put a nice fillet of wild-caught salmon, maybe a little bit of olive oil, seasoning with some lemon juice dripped on, and bake that off. You can roast some asparagus, some new potatoes, onions, all of that alongside a nice piece of salmon. That's a beautiful meal that will last and feel really good in your body, and hopefully starve off sugar cravings. Once in a while, I will do a marigold bar. I don't talk about this a lot, but it's more like it's a whey protein, whole food. It's like a candy bar. No sugar, lots of protein, super quality ingredients. I think my very favorite is the German chocolate cake. Delicious. If I do need something sweet, I eat it right after my meal. Whether I've made some gluten-free chocolate chip cookies for the grandkids or someone brings me a brownie, I typically eat that after a meal because I want to eat all my food in feeding windows. You've heard this. Open your feeding window, eat your food, get nourished, and then stop eating. Stop eating and let your body process. We go over all of this in my Metabolic Mastery course. It's a one-on-one, very comprehensive fat loss journey. I teach you lifestyle hacks. I teach you everything you need to know specifically for you and your body. It's a customized plan. You get clarity and understanding in exactly how your body needs to be fed, watered, and lived to enjoy fat loss once and for all. Check out my website, ConnieRutledge.com. I'm available for 1-hour Jumpstart sessions, and that's usually how most people get started. I have other services like we can evaluate your labs, look at what's going on under the hood so that you don't have to be questioning and feeling confused in all things fat loss and longevity and general health. Feel confident about what supplements you're taking. And you know what? When you kind of level things out and get fat adapted, you'll be surprised at how much fewer supplements you'll need. Most of what we were told is wrong, and I want to clear things up. Go to my website, sign up for my newsletter. If you're curious about how I work, email me. We can set up a quick discovery call and I can answer your questions. It's never too late to start. Okay, come for the fat loss, stay for the longevity. We're not getting any younger. I want to show you how easy it is to feel good in your body again. I'll see you next time. Thanks for being here.